since all of his writings have been approved and the one miracle was approved for the beatification, what we need right now, if Rome still requires it, because technically Rome could decide not to require one, we require a second miracle, a miracle that occurred after the beatification was announced in May of 2017. So we receive lots of favor reports. We have an official form that we send out to folk that helps us acquire the basic information. Some people are reporting favors that go back long before the beatification, so we document those because they're very important for documenting the ongoing intervention of Blessed Solanus in people's lives. But we can't pursue any of those if they occurred before the Pope announced the approval of the miracle in May of 2017. So we get many reports, and Rome has got some pretty clear guidelines about what we need to look for. We need to make sure that there was no clear medical explanation for it. We need to demonstrate that there was prayer for intercession of Blessed Solanus before the favor was received. And the language we use is the language of favor, that people receive many favors. We avoid the language of miracle because that's what Rome decides. The Pope decides it's a miracle officially. Now, other folk can use that language in their own communication and the way they refer to the events in their lives, and people will talk about the miracle baby or the miracle cure. We use the language of favor, and we ask people to report favors. And if we can determine that there was, somebody, for example, may have a medical situation where they had medical intervention and chemotherapy or surgery or whatever, and then after that they say they're cured. And this is one of the challenges of what's a miracle today with all of the advances in medicine. But largely those are things that we don't pursue because there could be an explanation besides the miraculous intervention of Solanus. When we do find something that's not immediately explicable from a medical perspective, we've got very, very good friends in the medical community who donate their time and they review the cases for us. So we'll get the preliminary report of a favor and we'll send it to one of our collaborating physicians, and they will suggest to us whether or not we need to go to the next step. And the next step would be trying to acquire full medical records. So, for example, they might look at something and they say, this is a favor received, but it would not qualify as extraordinary because there's a very good medical explanation for it. And because of HIPAA laws and because of confidentiality, we don't give any, real case examples of this because we need to protect the confidentiality of the folk who make these reports. They might decide they want to tell other folk, and some people have even reported them to the press, but we don't. So if they ask for full records, then we often have to find a specialist. So, for example, when the miracle was approved, Paula's favor received was around a skin condition, a skin disease. So they had to start with a dermatologist, a specialty in skin diseases. And it was the dermatologist who looked at this and said, there's no real medical explanation for this. So once we have good advice from our general medical advisors and then often specialists, then our task is then we go to the postulator general in Rome, the Capuchin, who oversees the whole process for all Capuchin blessed and venerable and saints, as well as a number of women's religious communities. And we submit the information to him. And he's the one that advises us whether or not we should move forward with it. So we wait for Brother Carlo to give us that go-ahead. And if we get that go-ahead, then it goes back to the Archdiocese, because just like the beatification process, the canonization process is something that occurs in the Archdiocese of Detroit. And so the Archdiocese would open a case, and they would convene a board of physicians, and their people and their physicians would look at it, and that if they believed that this was a miraculous intervention, or appeared to be, then they would make that recommendation, and then it would move to Rome to the Congregation for the Cause of Saints. And they would, again, convene a group of, I believe it's 7 physicians there, who would then review the case, and then they make a recommendation in consultation with our Postulator General and the congregation, and then that recommendation goes to the Pope, and the Pope is the one who decides, and the Pope is the one who makes the decision. So it's a long process. I mean, for Solanus, he died in 57, and it was 60 years to get the various stages of venerable and servant of God and beatified for that first miracle. So, we continue to move through. We have always a variety of cases that we're looking at. We have probably, at this stage, another 4 or 5 that are with our local consultants. But it's and then, of course, we get so many more that we simply write back to people and say, our physicians say that this does not officially qualify as something we could pursue, but it doesn't mean that you didn't have, an intervention of Blessed Solanus in your life, and these favors are very important because they demonstrate the ongoing reporting of people's devotion to Solanus and the many, many reports of the way he intervenes in people's lives.